its water totally, and basically it's now for sale, and there's a big American investment firm that's actually buying up water rights. It was supposed to be originally just to get the farmers or the big farm conglomerates to share or to trade, but now it's all gone private and international. So they're hardly going to support something that says that water is is a human right when they've commodified it and said it's a market commodity. So really what you're seeing is a split between those countries that see water as a public trust, although that wasn't in the language of the legislation, but that see water as a public trust and a human right, and that should belong to all, as opposed to those who are going to move to a market model. And I think that's the truth behind what happened. And it's very important for you to know that they did not allow the inclusion of the words access to, and that was one of the demands. I think some of those countries would have said yes to something that said access to. It's very important. It's not semantic, because if you say you have access to it, then all the government has to do is provide you access. And then they can charge you, or they can have a private company come in and deliver it and charge you. And if you can't afford it, they provided you access. It's not their fault if you can't pay it. So it's very important that Bolivia and the other sponsoring countries held on to the language of the human right to drinking water and sanitation. They wouldn't drop sanitation. They wouldn't add the words access to. And those were the sticking points.
And in practical terms, what will be the impact of this resolution on those efforts to continue to commodify or privatize water supplies in countries around the world, especially in the third world? It's
a fight we're in. I'm not going to say that suddenly everything's going to be fine tomorrow, or today being the day after the vote, that anybody woke up in a different situation, that anybody had more water today than they did yesterday, or more access to sanitation. What it is a moral statement, a guiding principle of the countries of the world, and basically the UN is the closest thing we have to a global parliament, that they have taken a step in a direction of saying that water is a human right and a public trust, and that no one should be dying for lack of water, and they shouldn't have to watch their children die a horrible death for lack of water because they cannot pay. And that was a statement that has taken us years and years to get the UN. They haven't even debated the water issue. They hadn't even debated it in the past. They've done all this work on climate and absolutely no work on water. So it was a huge step forward to establishing some principles that we need if we are to avoid the crisis that I honestly see coming, that I think is going to be worse than anybody can imagine in terms of the suffering.
Maude Barlow, talk about the connection between lack of water and global warming. June 2010 is the hottest June ever recorded on Earth.
Yeah. Two connections. One is that climate change from greenhouse gas emissions and other causes is impacting water. So it's melting glaciers, it's melting ice packs, so that places like the Great Lakes don't have the thick ice pack that they used to, so that the evaporation takes place more quickly. The water is eroding and evaporating far too quickly. So we know that global warming is having an impact on water. Conversely, our thinking that water is just a resource for our convenience and our profit has made us act as if there's no tomorrow with water. So we move it all over the place. We take big pipes and we move water from aquifers and watersheds where it is maintaining a healthy hydrologic cycle, maintaining the rain cycle, maintaining vegetation that's needed for the retention of water in the soil. And we move it to grow crops we shouldn't in deserts. We move massive amounts of water into huge cities, and when they're finished with it, they dump it in the ocean as garbage. A colleague a colleague in Slovakia who estimates that we send, trying to do the math from liters to gallons, trillions and trillions of gallons of water from land-based systems into the ocean every year. So we've got to change this. This resolution is the first step towards a different attitude towards nature and towards one another.
And this UN resolution that's just been passed as water is a basic human right, we will link to at democracynow.org. Maude Barlow, thank you very much. Head of the Council of Canadians, considered the most important water justice activist in the world. Thanks so much. That does it for our broadcast. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Shrufa Bokadus, Aaron Mate, Angela Cummins, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Hani Masood, Robbie Karen. Steve, get better. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.